Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Welcome everybody to Tiger Claw Radio. My goodness, what a show. Alright, so Xbox games are coming to Steam. We've got the GOG Summer Sale, and we've got Iron Maiden, the band, suing 3D Realms for Iron Maiden, the game. All this and more this week on TCR. My goodness. It is a spicy meatball. Let's start things out with an album that I've played here on the air before. The album is 100 Mornings, and it's from Windows 96. And this just had a vinyl run recently. They reprinted it on vinyl. And consequently, it's on the top of the charts over on Bandcamp. So, one of the most purchased electronic music albums right now, and it's hella good in my opinion. So we're gonna catch some Windows 96, and when we come back, more video games. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. That's the lead-off track from 100 Mornings from Windows 96. If you don't have the money for the vinyl record, go get yourself a copy of the MP3s for free. That was produced over at Business Casual, is where they have that available for download. So you can look up Business Casual on Bandcamp and find yourself a copy. It's good stuff. I promise you it is. All right, boys and girls, there's no time to waste. We got to get to the van. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Morning, everybody. It's Thursday. It's time for the Vancast. It is 6:20 in the morning and a lovely 66 degrees on this late May morning. We've had some hot weather over the last few days. Let's see. Yesterday it got up to got in the 90s. Really hot outside. This past week we went down to a Costco, and we got the day I can't remember what it was we were there for, but on that particular day we just happened to cross a display of Super Soakers. And we got a couple of Super Soakers for the kids, so they've been able to run around in the yard with their pump action water guns and chase each other around, which has been great. We had a couple Super Soakers in the house growing up. They work a little different now than they used to. I distinctly remember the thing about Super Soaker was that it worked on pressure. You had the pump action, which would build pressure in the tank. And so when you pulled the trigger, you were releasing all the pressure that you had built up. Thus, you could maintain a nice long blast. I think the Super Soaker 200 was the one my brother had, where it had 2 water tanks and then a dedicated pressure tank on top of that. So you could empty those water tanks in a single blast if you could pump the action quick enough. These work a little different. They're not pressure based, so the pump action actually also forces the water out. There's no trigger. It's just pump and shoot. But they're name brand Super Soakers, so I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know if maybe they're low end or if they just changed the way Super Soakers work over the last couple of decades, however long it's been. So that was cool. That was kind of a blast from the past for me, because I remember being young and being involved in these big water wars. Probably about like junior high age, I guess. All the kids around the block would all have their water guns, and we would just all gather and squirt each other out in the front yard. Those were good times. Had a lot of fun doing that. So that was this past week or so. This morning I was in Panzer Studios getting dressed, getting ready for work, getting it all together, and I spent most of the morning working on reviews for Emerald Rangers. I wrote a review for Fatal Labyrinth for the Sega Genesis, which should be up this next week, I believe. And then I started playing a game called Echo Royale, which is like a cheap 99-cent Flappy Bird clone, where you play as a dolphin instead of Flappy Bird. Thrilling stuff. But yeah, you'll be able to get the full analysis on that one over on Emerald Rangers in another month or so. But as I was wrapping up for the morning and getting ready, I was getting my shirt buttoned up and whatnot, and I was looking around on the shelf, just kind of eyeballing a lot of the games that are up there that I don't really have time to play at the moment. And there's a little stack of NES games. Now I used to run a series on my YouTube channel, Talking Nintendo, where I would just say, hey, here's a Nintendo game. I'm gonna go over it one at a time and go over all the games in my collection. And I have a stack of like 5 or 6 Nintendo games that are like the next ones that I was gonna do, even though I haven't done one for like 2 years now.
So I believe the next game that was gonna was up to bat for talking Nintendo. If I'm not mistaken, one of the next games was Ghosts and Goblins for the NES. And something about this morning, all the elements seemed to fall into place. And it kind of got me thinking back of how I first encountered that game. So when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, let's see, what year was this? We'll probably middle school, so we'll say 1996, 1997, around that time. I often talk about that era as the time when it was not cool to collect Nintendo games. It's something that most people don't seem to remember. But that was when you could walk to the pawn shop and they'd have a stack of Nintendo games, waist high, for $5 a piece, and it didn't matter what they were. So another thing that happened around that time was I went over to my buddy's house, my buddy Engie, and Engie had a lot of newer systems at the time. He was a PlayStation guy. He also had a Sega Saturn, we were talking about Nintendo, and I was telling him about how I was collecting. I liked to go down to the pawn shop, drop my $5 and get a new game. And I can't remember exactly how it went down, but he had a box, an old box of NES games. Probably had 20 games in it or something like that. Which, might I remind you, at the time didn't really have any value. So he was like, okay, hey man, I got these old NES games, you're digging the NES, why don't you just take these? There you go, they're yours. I was like, all right, man. Thanks very much. I was really excited. Took the box, went home. And I started going through these NES games. Now, you got to understand that at this time, this was before ROMs and emulation were a thing. That came shortly after this, but not by much. It wasn't around yet. So a lot of the games in this box are NES games cemented into the fabric of time that I was experiencing for the very first time right there on the floor of my basement, in my parents' house with this whole cardboard box I got from Engie. And I can't remember every single game that was in there, but I do remember some of them. I remember there was a copy of Metroid, which I couldn't get working because my NES at the time, I was using the wrong kind of AC adapter for my NES, and it was causing problems. Certain things didn't work. So there was Metroid, which I couldn't get working. There was Kung Fu, which I played for the very first time. There was Metal Storm, which is often what I bring up when I talk about the story. He just gave me a copy of Metal Storm, and he was like, yeah, here you go, bro. What else was in that? This is where it starts to get hazy. Those are the ones I really remember the most. Engie, if you're out there, what else was in that box? Because you probably know better than I do at this point. I know Excitebike was in there. I think that's how I got my copy of Excitebike. But for the most part, I remember playing Kung Fu for the first time. I remember Metroid. I remember Metal Storm. And I remember Ghosts and Goblins. So this is the first time in my life I ever played Ghosts and Goblins on the NES. I was a young teenager. Probably, I would place it about 15 years old. And I remember, oddly enough, I remember the first time I played Ghosts and Goblins, I remember thinking, wow, this game is really hard. But I didn't think, wow, this game is unfair. I think that now. But at the time, I was like, wow, I'm really not that good at this game. I wonder, I guess I'll have to do some more practicing or whatever. But if only I had known then that if you beat the game, it just says, oh, it was all an illusion, beat the game again. I think back to that time playing some of those games for the first time. is something I remember quite fondly. By the way, that copy of Metal Storm I held on to for a couple of decades, and I finally returned it back to NG later on in life, once we realized that there was actual value and he had started collecting at some point. So I'm not a total super villain. You know, this is one of my buddy's games, right? Also, I'd like to point out that at this point, when I was a teenager, when I was collecting these games, it had zero to do with shelf value, right? I was collecting just to play the games. That's why I was collecting. Partly because when I played Nintendo games, even back then, or video games in general, rather, I was doing a lot of bouncing around. So I would sit down, you know, and say, all right, I'm going to play Nintendo games for a couple of hours. And it would be normal for me to go through like 4 or 5 different games, you know, in the span of a couple of hours. It was very rare for me to sit down with a single game and practice at it and get good at it, you know, and focus my attention at a single game. I remember doing it in some cases, but for the most part, I like to bounce around. One game I remember practicing like that and really focusing on was Bayou Billy for the NES. I can't do it now, but there was a time when I was really good at Bayou Billy, and I could get pretty far on the authentic hardware. Bayou Billy had a limited amount of continues, extra lives, whatever it was. I haven't played the game in years, but it was one of these games where you didn't get a guaranteed pass all the way to the end. Once you used up your resources, it was game over, buddy. That was it. So you had to really be careful playing through that game. Every punch and kick counted. All that stuff mattered. So it took a lot of practice. I got to the second driving stage. Just before the second driving stage, there's like a nearly impossible boss where you fight this MP guy. And I was able to beat him at one point. So I felt like, yeah, this is really far. But later on in life, I played through Bayou Billy on an emulator using like save scumming, where you save and load over and over again. And what I didn't realize was I was like less than halfway through the game. And then at the end of the game, when you're actually going to fight the boss, it's like they made it like impossibly difficult. So that's kind of a downer, because it makes me think way back when I was fighting the impossible fight. This was a game there was no way I was going to beat. You know, even if I got past that second driving stage where I would get stuck, you know, the part I never got past, there was a part beyond that was like just impossible. You have to like fist fight these big robot guys at the end or something. I don't know. Bayou Billy was a weird game. I liked it as a kid, but it was a weird game for sure. I like looking back on the NES when I was actually experiencing it for the first time, you know, within the context of the 90s. Because sometimes these days, when you think about the NES in particular, it can be hard to think of that system outside of the realm of, hey, it's my YouTube channel, man. Whoa, we're going to look at some NES reviews. Look at this big stack of NES games I just got off of eBay, everybody. This is the new additions to the collection, everybody. You know, I feel like part of the NES's legacy has been taken by the YouTube crowd. When in reality, there was a time when this was the system that was like the new hot thing, you know? And all that. Oh boy, man, I'm tired. Alright, so it's Thursday. I'm getting ready to go do my Thursday at work. What would I play if I were back home? If I were back in the office, sitting in my chair. Well, I finally finished Resident Evil 4. I played it all the way through to the end, saw the ending. It was a pivotal moment in gaming history for me. I wanted to make a video about it, but I just never made it happen. I borrowed Resident Evil 4 for the PS2 from NG like 10 years ago. So it was nice to finally beat it. So that's kind of opened me up to move on to other things. Yeah, so I'm not really sure what I would play next. I spent the morning working on my reviews for Emerald Rangers, so I wasn't exactly just like jumping into a game and kicking around, you know, for my sake. Yeah, I'm not really sure what I would play. I don't know. I've been going through games one at a time and playing them to the end over the last couple of months. You might remember I went through that kick where I was playing all those Call of Duty games, playing through like the single player campaigns, and then I played, played through Kane and Lynch 1 and 2. So I'm not quite sure what I would move on to be honest. Maybe I would open up my GOG collection and start messing around with GOG Galaxy. You might remember, I think I might have said this already, but they made a big announcement that there's going to be a major update to GOG Galaxy. It's going to be GOG Galaxy 2.0, and everything's going to be different. And they're going to be integrating games across platforms somehow. Kind of looks like they're going to show playtime based off of several platforms as well. So if you're going to play a game that exists on Steam as well, and you're looking at your Steam profile or your GOG profile, it would show like your total time, including time from both platforms, which I think is an interesting concept. So knowing that big update is around the corner, maybe I would open up GOG Galaxy like as it is now and just play a few of the games. Because I have some good games on GOG that you can't get anywhere else. Got some good games, especially pinball. Got some good pinball games. I have the Pinball Gold collection, which I enjoy very much. You know what? That'd probably be what I'd play right now is Pinball Gold. Pinball Fantasies or something like that. One of those types of games. I seem to remember there was something else on GOG that was on sale this past week. I think it was Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3. There's a Mortal Kombat package you can get on GOG.com that's like the DOS ports of Mortal Kombat. And it went down to like $1.25. But I never bought it. I might open that up and take a look. If that was still on sale this morning, I'd probably pull the trigger on that. Play some old school Mortal Kombat on MS-DOS via GOG.com. I think that'd make for a good morning. Right? We need access to those old Mortal Kombat games again. There was a package where you could get them in a trilogy, like the Mortal Kombat Trilogy package. I can't even remember what exactly they called it, but that's since been removed. That was available on Steam and I think GOG as well. But it was using Games for Windows Live. Nah, that wouldn't have been on GOG. Maybe it was just Steam. Totally gone. Been gone for years. So as far as I know, I think that these little DOS games, the DOS ports of the first 3 Mortal Kombat games on GOG, I think that might be the only way you can get those games right now. So, yeah. I think that would be my morning. And with that, boys and girls, I'm going to shoot you guys back to Panzer Studios. And I'm going to go in and do my Thursday at work.
We're back again in the studio. So we jumped right to Thursday. We sure did. We did that because the first half of the week, I was actually listening to terrestrial radio, like local AM radio, and just tuning around and seeing what was out there now. It's something, I don't know. When I was a kid, when I was 10 years old, I used to listen to the radio every night. The only recorded music I had was a couple of cassette tapes, and one of them was Amy Grant. I had an Amy Grant cassette tape, and I had a cassette tape that was like a mixtape that we made that had like some songs from the Mortal Kombat album. I remember the Mortal Kombat album, and I remember, that's really it. That's all I remember. And then when you're young, you do that move where you tape songs off the radio. That was the thing that we did back in the 80s. Late 80s, early 90s. You'd leave the cassette player on record and pause. And then you would unpause just as the next song was about to start and hope it was something good. Yeah, good times. So, I don't know, something about early in the week, I wanted to kind of go back to that time a little bit and listen to radio in the morning. Which, by the way, radio in the morning, not good, as it turns out. So we're going to go back to the 100 Mornings album in just a second here. But first, I want to take a minute to thank the sponsors. This is a Patreon-sponsored program. So I've come to the conclusion that what I can do for the Patreon sponsors is give them early access to the show as soon as this gets finished, which is usually Friday night, sometimes Saturday. They get early access, and I also read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen here on the show. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, and Konstantin Kelman. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show and making it so that I can come back every single week no matter what's going on. No matter how busy it gets, no matter what I have going on, we have this time to hang out and talk about video games because of these gentlemen. So thank you. And with that, we're going to head back to the Vancast that was recorded this morning. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Before that, another track from 100 Mornings. Then we're going to do the Spicy Vancast. All right? This is Windows 96. That's the name of the artist. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Welcome back, everybody, to Tiger Claw Radio. We're getting ready to go to the Vancast. Now, this is the spicy one that I recorded this morning. This is immediately after hearing all the news, all of the news, all the talking points that I led off the show with. Xbox games coming to Steam, the GOG Summer Sale, which I'm going to check out as soon as I'm done making tonight's recording, and also Ion Maiden, 3D Realms / Iron Maiden lawsuit. Stick with us. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Let's go to the van.
Friday morning, everybody. It's the Vancast. First time ever I've started a Vancast before I've left the house. I'm walking outside. Oh yeah, feels good, man. It's Friday morning. It's 66 degrees. What time is it? 6:10? Nice and early. And man, got quite a few things to go over. Let's get this commute started. Throw my briefcase in the back. Yes, you hear that live action getting ready for work to go do my day at the office on Friday? That's right. All right, turn that off. Throw it in reverse. Let's back out. Why is my rear wiper is like falling off the blade? It's hilarious. The wiper blade, the rubber part, has disconnected from the metal mechanism, and it's like hanging on by a thread. It's in rough shape, I'm not gonna lie. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. No, not about the wiper blades. The reason why I couldn't wait to get the Vancast started was because a few things have happened. Ion Maiden is getting sued by Iron Maiden. More Xbox games are coming to Steam. And what was the third thing I really wanted to talk about? There was three big major talking points. Well, let's do Ion Maiden first. So those of you who aren't familiar with Ion Maiden, that is a 3D Realms first-person shooter that is out now / being worked on now. They made like an old-school build engine game, right? Ken Silverman's build engine, the one that was used to make Duke Nukem 3D, Blood, and Nam, Shadow Warrior, and a few games like that. It was a competitor to the Quake engine in its time. It took a little bit less resources to run than the Quake engine did. So they made a brand new game called Ion Maiden. The first episode has been out for a while now in like early access. So you throw down $20, you get the first episode, and in the meantime they're finishing the rest of the game. Well, the company that makes it is getting sued by the band Iron Maiden for $2 million. $2 million. They say it's infringing on their copyright. They say the logo has a skull on it, which is a reference to their what's the name of the Iron Maiden character that shows up on all the records? They're saying it's a $2 million infringement for this game that isn't even out yet. So the internet was ablaze with that stuff yesterday. It's funny because I bought a record, like a vinyl record of Iron Maiden in the last year. I bought the Killers album on vinyl, and it occurred to me when I was reading this, it's like that's where that went. This is what they're trying to protect. They're trying to protect their sales of vinyl records to old people. And I was pissed. The name of the game isn't Iron Maiden, it's Ion Maiden. Come on now. I get it. Wink, wink, nod, nod, nudge, nudge, Bob's your uncle, whatnot. But it's not the same thing. It is not. So I'm interested to see what the legal precedent is. Considering it's only one letter different, how different exactly do they have to make the name in order for them to be legally not the same thing? who knows? I'm interested to see how the case pans out. So I'm especially interested in these like high-class, frivolous copyright battles where nobody wins. Somebody made the point online. It's like this will go to court, this will get thrown out, and the lawyers still get paid. So why not, right? If you're an attorney, right, and you're gonna pursue this lawsuit, they probably know from the get-go, yeah, this is gonna get thrown in the garbage, but Iron Maiden is the record label is gonna pay us, so why would we not pursue it? Literally no reason not to. So that makes me a little sick to my stomach. Like that's really unfortunate. This is something I remember Bethesda getting caught up in many years ago. And I've joked about this before, but you might remember following the success of Minecraft. This is probably like, I would place this as like 2013, 2014 or so. The follow-up to Minecraft was a collectible card game called Scrolls. And Bethesda sued them, saying it was an infringement on the Elder Scrolls. Yeah, that got thrown out of court, but equally hilarious, in my opinion. So that's that. This has... okay, a little bit about the game itself. I have not yet thrown down the $20 for Iron Maiden. Now I really want to. Because you look at the trailer... and it's a build engine game for sure, but what they've managed to accomplish graphically with the build engine is amazing. It looks really good, especially for a build engine game. Build engine is an old engine, late 90s FPS engine. It looks amazing. When they were making the build engine games we all know from back in the day, and I was talking about this last night with Alex Swingle. So, Alex, if you're out there, buddy, stick with me while we wade through these talking points. There were definitely like memory limitations at the time that are not present anymore. Because this game looks great, and another example is Duke Nukem 3D World Tour, where they have a brand new episode of Duke Nukem 3D that was made, by the original team, it's still in the build engine, just, today. And that episode looks amazing. It is astounding. The amount of detail they were able to put in it is really out of this world. So you can see they're able to do more now than they were before. Not necessarily from the advancements in the engine, but rather just because they can throw more stuff in and not have it break the computers. Here's another example. In Duke Nukem 3D, the first level of the first episode, Hollywood Holocaust, if you're familiar with that level, you start out on a rooftop, then you drop down a ventilation shaft onto the street. This all happens in the first 10 seconds of the game. When you drop down onto the street, on the left-hand side, there's like a movie theater. And on the right-hand side, you got like 10 feet of alley, and there's a little wall. If you climb up on the wall, there's a rocket launcher. And then you go back left towards the movie theater, and then it hooks around at the corner. That is the first room of Duke Nukem 3D. If you play the version of the game that gives you director's commentary, the way they originally developed it, once you landed on that street, left was the movie theater, and turning right, the entire map extended into a huge garage. And they had to pull the garage out because what they found was if you stood in the corner of the street and angled yourself in such a way so that the garage and the street in front of the movie theater were both in frame, the game would slow to a stop because it couldn't handle that much. That is a prime example of an issue they don't have now. So look at the trailer for Iron Maiden. That's the build engine without those problems. And it looks fantastic. So now that they're in a little bit of legal hot water, I want to buy this game real bad. I want to buy it real bad, son. It's $20. We got Steam sales just around the corner. We have GOG sales that are on now. I kind of want to ride those sales out and see what kind of deals I can get. But that's Ion Maiden. I wanted to bring it to you guys' attention. If you like first-person shooters, particularly ones with a bit of an old-school feel to it, if you had any interest in the Blood remake that came out a month or two ago, or however long ago that was, if you have any interest in fresh supply Blood, then take a look at Ion Maiden and see what you think. All right, so the second thing I wanted to bring up was the GOG summer sale is on now. We've had the date for the Steam summer sale, which I believe is like June 11th, right? And so the GOG sales are on right now. So we've got these, and then we've got Steam like a couple weeks down the road. I went flipping through it this morning, and they've done really well for the sale this year. Some of the stuff that doesn't really go on sale for that much is on sale. Like, it's hard to get like the Police Quest collection and the Space Quest collection. Those go on sale for a little bit, but they have a nice fat discount right now. Give me a second. I'm passing a school bus here. All right, everybody safe? Okay, good. On we go. So there's some good games that have got my attention. Particularly, there's a shmup called Pulsar. Right? Is it Pulsar or Pulstar? I think it's Pulsar on GOG. One of these shmups. There's like an anime girl on the cover, and she's like an astronaut or something. I don't know. It looks cool. Not the kind of game you would typically associate with GOG.com, but it's been on my radar for a little while. That's like a couple of dollars. The big ones are the Warcraft 1 and 2 Battle.net edition from Blizzard. They actually put that on sale, not by a lot, but instead of $15, it's like $13.50. Same thing with the original Diablo. I'm shocked that these games got put on sale. The original Diablo went from $10, now it's $8 or $9. They put it $1 off. Tiny little sale, but you know what? I'm so happy that Blizzard decided to participate. Blizzard, not my favorite company in the world, but they are now involved, in the thick of digital distribution. One of the major games distributors. They're in there, and now they're participating in like the sale culture that we have, which I think is so much fun. So of those two games, I don't know which one I would want more. I'm kind of leaning towards Warcraft 1 and 2 Battle.net edition, because when Hemrock was at my place a couple weeks back, I got the strategy guide, like the Prima strategy guide for Warcraft 2 Battle.net edition. And I think what better time to play Warcraft 2 again? What better time? When I lived about 100 miles north of here, I lived in a smaller town in like rural Maryland. Maryland gets pretty rural in a few places. It's a small state, but it's got some beautiful sights. There was a used bookstore across the street from my apartment. And I would go to the used bookstore, and on several cases they had big box PC games for cheap. And I bought whatever I could find. Stupidly, when I was having space issues, I got rid of the boxes and kept the games, which was something I'm kicking myself over. But I got some really good PC games during this time. I got the D-Zone big box game. D-Zone was like an unofficial expansion for Doom and Doom 2. I got a big box copy of SimCity 2000. I got a big box copy of the original Diablo. I got a big box copy of a game called Heavy Gear 2. And there were a couple others that I just didn't manage to get my hands on. And one of them was Warcraft 2 Battle.net Edition. I saw Warcraft 2 Battle.net Edition, saw the big box. I was like, I know that game is amazing. I know it's amazing. I loved Warcraft 2. But this is the Battle.net Edition. And this is the advanced year. We are all the way in the future to the year of 2007. There is no way that the Battle.net Edition is still going to be the Battle.net Edition. I looked at that thing, I was like, this is going to be a CD only, single player campaign only kind of deal. Which is ironic because now in 2019, more than 10 years later, I'm thinking about it, and that's kind of what I'm the most excited about, is playing through the campaign again. So Warcraft 2 in particular has got me excited a little bit. I gotta say though, like Warcraft 2 is definitely the game to play in that bundle, but I think it would be neat to play like a legit authentic copy of the original Warcraft as well. Warcraft is a game that has been on the abandonware sites for decades. And if you would play it on the abandonware sites, there were sound issues. I don't believe there was any sound. So you could get the full game, but it was totally in mute. So to get it on GOG, hopefully I'd be able to, some of that would be fixed. And that would be amazing. I'm looking forward to that. All right, so we talked about Ion Maiden. We talked a little bit about the GOG summer sales. And I mentioned like 2 games. The Blizzard games and then Pulsar. There were more games that I wanted to get, but that's what comes to mind. Epic Pinball is another one. I don't have that yet. That's $3 right now instead of the typical $6. Epic Pinball was a huge deal in 1997. It was. I loved Epic Pinball. It was one of these things where like they let you have one table. And it was the Android table, which most people remember. And the Android, oh my gosh. Oh, hang on. Sun's right in my eyes. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is not safe. Hang on. Slow down just a bit until I can see. And I think we're good. Yeah, so you got the one pinball table, and there was like 10 others. And as it turns out, the one pinball table was the best one. But I still want it. Every pinball-themed game on GOG.com is a game that I want to have. I loved video pinball from that era. Pre-Pinball FX, pre-arcade pinball, all that stuff. I want to play pro pinball. I want to play Balls of Steel. I want to play, all that stuff. I want to play Worms pinball. Those are great games. What was the other thing? Okay, so the third talking point I have is a little bit difficult for me to go over because it's an article that I believe was on The Verge, and I don't have the article in front of me. Hopefully I can go over it back in the studio if I remember. But the long and short of it was more Xbox games are coming to Steam, which shocked me. It shocked me. It did. Specifically, they cited... let me not get ahead of myself. You guys are aware that the Halo Master Chief Collection is coming to Steam. And that was big news when they announced that. It hasn't happened yet. Halo Master Chief Collection, that's coming to Steam. Listen, I don't buy games that are new. When games first drop, I don't usually buy them. That is a game I want to get when it drops. I know it's going to be more money. It's going to be like an extra $20, $30 to get it at release, right? Probably be $60 at release. And if you hang on for a year or two, you drop to like $30 or even less. I'm expecting to get Resident Evil 7 for $20, right? And that was a $60 game when it dropped. Just to give you a picture of how much you can save just by hanging on. But this is a game I don't want to wait. I want to get the Master Chief Collection right away. Halo was an enormous thing when it was hot. I had an Xbox when Halo was new, and I had Halo, and people used to come to my place and we would play, and it was big. It was a big deal. I'm looking forward to not only getting to taste that again, with other people online, but being able to play it with a mouse and keyboard, right? The way I play a first-person shooter. So understanding how cool that was, the idea that more of these Xbox games are coming to Steam is awesome. I don't have a list of the games they cited, but one of them was Gears 5. So we're getting the Gears of War series, at least the new one, which opens the door to like Gears of War HD collection. So cool, man. So cool. Before my Xbox 360 got put up on the shelf, I picked up Gears of War 1 and 2 for 99 cents a piece from GameStop. They were dumping the old copies of Gears of War for pennies on the dollar, and I scored 1 and 2. I don't have 3, but 1 and 2. And I was playing through Gears of War 1 with my buddy, and I was really digging it, man. I thought Gears of War was an awesome game. Now, to be fair, I played it years after its release. By the time I played Gears of War, it was already old news. Like it was etched into gaming history, as it were. So I wasn't playing it like with the craze. It's kind of like Skyrim, how Skyrim was really popular and a lot of people loved it. If you played Skyrim for the first time right now, that's kind of how I experienced Gears of War. Nothing wrong with playing Skyrim for the first time right now, It's a few years after its release. Skyrim came out, 6-7 years ago, something like that. Still an awesome game. But not a brand new game. So that's it. We've got Xbox games coming to Steam. We've got Ion Maiden getting sued by Iron Maiden. We've got the GOG summer sale on. And both platforms, GOG and Steam, are both getting huge overhauls to their interface. To be fair, the Steam one is a rumor. I haven't seen the article, but I have seen screenshots of the newer interface, and it looks like they're adopting more of like the Metro theme that was popular with Windows 8. It doesn't look good. I'm not very happy about it. But they are making changes. The Steam interface is something that's changed slowly over the years. The 9 some odd years I've been using Steam. They never, well, that's not fair. I was going to say they never really released a patch that changed everything all at once. That's not true. They did change the community overhaul like a couple of times. But by and large, they would change features one at a time, little by little. So if you look at a screenshot of Steam in 2010, compare it to now, the difference is pretty jarring. The biggest one I remember is if I went to my profile in the olden days, in the lower right, there was a little report box that would show like the last 4 games I played, how long I played them versus how long I've played them like in the last 2 weeks, right? And then there was a figure that was like, you've played X amount of hours in the last 2 weeks, like across every game. So this one little box was like the gaming report, and I liked going to that little box to see, what was up or what I'd been playing. As a matter of fact, my introduction to Steam was a forum, playing one of those forum games that people do, where it was like everybody posts a screenshot of your little, gameplay report. And people were posting screenshots and talking about how much, time everybody had spent playing Steam games. One guy had spent like 2,000 hours playing Team Fortress 2, and everybody was giving him a hard time for it. And Torchlight was a big one at the time. Torchlight 1 was like the new hot game. So that was showing up on a lot of people's Steam reports. This was like when I first got into Steam. I remember looking at all this and not having a Steam library yet. I registered for Steam like the following week. I registered because I wanted to play Counter-Strike. The original Counter-Strike. That's good times. That's good times. My first year in Steam was a fun year. It was. Got Counter-Strike, and then I got the Quake pack that August. Oh, good times. All right, how we doing now? 24 minutes and 9 seconds in. Wow. All right, I feel like I should start putting the kibosh on this. Start winding it down, as it were. All right, so what would I play, boys and girls, if I were back home? Well, I'll tell you what I would play. I would hook up my guitar to my mixing board. I've got a couple of pedals, Behringer pedals, for my guitar. I'll make a video about this soon. I've been meaning to get around to making a Battle Station video. I haven't yet. But I got a couple of like cheap pedals, a delay pedal, and then like an overdrive boost pedal. And hooking my guitar to my board, playing that over top of like a Famitracker track. I had this idea, like, okay, I've got my guitar, I can play directly in the soundboard, so I can make a crisp, clean recording that sounds amazing. Let's mix it with some chiptunes and just see how it turns out. And the result is like next level stuff, in my opinion. At least as it relates to like the stuff that I've put out, I'm really, really happy with the way it sounds. Like I feel like I have something that could contend with Chiptunes Equals Win now. Now, like I have a real like quality submission. So what I would do when I got home was I would hook that guitar into the box, into the mixing board, and I would go through some of the chiptunes that I've made in the last month that I haven't released, and come up with something that can go to Chiptunes Equals Win, because I'm so close. And I've got Battle of the Bits Spring Tracks submissions ends in 2 days. So I have this weekend to submit to Battle of the Bits. So I would probably finish that entry, which is also really close. I have a track that I believe is ready to go. I just want to run through it one more time and just see if there's any sort of changes I can make. Submit that this weekend, and then lay down some guitar for a Chiptunes Equals Win track. That's what I would do, and that would be my morning. I've got a new distortion pedal coming in the mail that I ordered yesterday. That'll be a lot of fun. I haven't been into, playing electric guitar since I was like a teenager in a punk band. I kind of hung it up. It got too much to deal with for a long time. And I hung it up in favor of like the acoustic guitar. Just because you can pull that thing out and play it anywhere, under any circumstances, which appealed to me a lot when I was younger. So this has been fun. This has been like a return to form. I'm playing the old guitar I was playing when I was 14 years old. A little Washburn 3/4 neck guitar that my mother bought me for $150. And I was 14, 35 now, and that thing has lasted. So my hat's off to the Washburn Company. They know how to make a guitar. And with that, boys and girls, we're 27 minutes in. I'm pulling into my company's parking garage right now. Give me a second here. Passing the gate, going inside. Let's see, can we keep this going for like 3 more minutes? Because I'm almost at my parking spot. And it's Friday afternoon, man. Friday afternoon. When I get home, and the kids are straight and they're in bed, it'll be time to jam. I'm looking forward to finishing TCR tonight. This week is going to be it's going to be a good show. And then I can get my chiptune straight, get that submitted, and I'll be all set. And with that, boys and girls, now for reals, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio. Driveway to driveway, the Vancast this week. I hope it wasn't excessive. I usually get a pretty positive response when it comes to longer form recordings, as long as they're not forced. So we'll see how this goes. And that's it. It's in park. I'm going to go in and do my day of work. I'll see you guys tonight.
Back again in the studio. It's time for the fail bag. Let's read the comments from last week's show. Mecha Menace writes in, "What, Balzac CF? Are you too cool for superhero movies? I guess my disbelief comes from years of reading Marvel comics as a kid and wanting to see these characters done right on the big screen. Please more Marvel movies. Forever." You know what? I wouldn't say I'm too cool for a Marvel movie. You know what movie I did like? X-Men First Class. I saw that in the theater with my father-in-law, and we had a really good time when that came out. That was a good movie. Yeah, you know, I don't know. People say that the Avengers Infinity War is pretty good. I might watch that one day. You know, I don't know. I just... there are so many of them, dude. You know what I mean? There's so many. That's all it is. Death Adder writes, "There's nothing wrong with you liking your baby video games. Have you ever played Mini Putt on the NES? It's just barely visible. It's a little barely visible ball moving around, and it's dimes. I'd be okay if every other Marvel and DC each released one movie apiece. Every other summer, Marvel and DC released one movie apiece. Seeing King Edgelord Robert Downey Jr. in a red and yellow CGI robot costume 17 times was a bit much for me. I'm a pretty simple person. But I'm not simple enough to still enjoy that." Ouch. I still love to hear a Beastcast covering the Thanos story arc ending. If you wanted to put Sean down on blast for me on TCR. Yeah, that's right, Sean. Make it happen, brother. Oh, yes, and I'm entering the podcast multiverse to try and get that Beastcast out of him. In regards to Japan, when I win the lottery, and you can hold me to this, I'm flying the entire Mondo Roundverse to Japan, and we will record the biggest podcast ever in a Yakuza strip club while wearing full Saiyan body armor. I'm listening to this while drinking a lot of coffee. I apologize. Good times, Death Adder. Yeah, I agree. Beastcast needs to come back and talk to us about the superhero movies because it's been a while. You know, I never saw Iron Man. I never saw the Iron Man movies, and people say Iron Man was like the best. People talk about Iron Man as if it's like one of the quintessential superhero movies. So that one is on my list. I do want to sit down and watch Iron Man. Desm 101 writes, "I'm also pretty burned out on comic book movies. I read them as a kid. I don't think they are particularly bad, but there is an oversaturation with these types of movies, and it makes them uninteresting to me at this point. It's always the same, save the world, big battle scene at the end, formula with flashy presentation, but very little food for thought. Plus, it's all with the intent of shared universes, and I kind of want to return to the creative one-off movies like Brazil, Jacob's Ladder, etc., that are more interested in telling a good story instead of running a massive franchise. All right, Desm, I got the perfect movie for you. How about Watchmen? Have you ever seen that movie? It's the superhero movie that checks all the boxes you said. For one thing, it is one movie with no sequels ever. It is a single, self-contained, standalone movie. It does have superheroes in it, yes. But let me tell you, there is nothing like Watchmen. That movie stands alone. Love it or hate it, there is nothing like that movie. Yeah. You know, that is another superhero movie. Almost like I have a negative reaction to calling it a superhero movie. It seems more like a movie that has superheroes in it. But yeah, very, very good movie. Let's see where we at now. And with that, boys and girls, we're an hour and 5 minutes in. Whatever brought you here, thanks so much for spending time. I appreciate it. Yeah, I know the people who listen to this show are a special caliber of awesome, because I see the numbers. They don't always grow. They come up and they go down, but there's like a certain line that it has never dropped below. Not once in like the year and a half, 2 years I've been back. So my hat is off to you guys who come back every week. So as we finish this show and we head off and do our week at work or school or wherever it is you got to go, I just want to wish you guys a special good luck. Keep at it. Keep your nose to the grindstone. Keep your head down. Keep getting up in the morning, especially when it's hard. I'm rooting for you. I'll see you next Monday.